The most important thing, remain active in the chat box. Chat is the energy of the class, है ना? तो आप सभी को पता ही है, chat is the energy. So chat नहीं रुकनी चाहिए. This session will be majorly in English. Okay, slightly you'll be using Hindi as well if required in any explanation. Okay, just to make sure that we are starting with chapter wise sessions daily at the same time, 9 p.m. chapter wise sessions. So we'll be studying 1, 2, 3 till last chapter, that is 16. I hope you guys have seen the summary of it. If you have not seen the summary, then you can take it on the number written on the screen. Okay. Summary I have already provided on the same day of economics survey. Okay. That was there. If in case you missed any summary, you can ask me on this number. And in addition, you can also follow us on Instagram where we are uploading the summaries. Okay. So in the summary section area, it is there. Okay. Make sense, everyone? Chalo. Nice. Now, what is the most important thing here you need to understand? Okay. What exactly you need to understand here is the economic survey. So we'll be studying economic survey with perspective of India making a global economy. Okay. Now, in the same case, the most important thing that we need to keep in mind before studying economic survey is certain basic things which every year we discuss, like it is published by Ministry of Finance, etc., etc. So these details are important, but for your examination purpose, for understanding in terms of economics, these factual information are vital, but not that important in terms of understanding those concepts. Okay. Now here the most important thing to keep in mind is that we'll be starting with the first chapter, that is the state of the economy pushing the growth frontier. Now, why I'm saying that it is important? Because this will let the foundation, and this will make the foundation of our full economic survey 2025-26. So economic survey is the like a report card of the last year. So last year in the sense 2025 April. Okay, till December we have all the data because in January they compile, and you know that in the last days of January they table into parliament. Tabled into parliament ka matlab kya hai? What's the meaning of that economic survey tabled in the parliament? It means they are not reading like a budget speech. Okay, they just present in front of the parliamentarians and the speaker. Okay, so that's the most important thing here we need to understand. Okay, as simple as that. Now what we will be studying here is simple. Chapter 1. So here we will see all the chapters one by one, as I told you. In case you are wondering how we are going to proceed, we'll be studying these chapters one by one. The meaning or the idea behind understanding each and every chapter is to understand the whole economic survey. As a student of economics, this is the most important document. You cannot miss this document. Okay. You have to read this document in full sense. Okay. Word by word, every word is important for the students of economics. So what I'll be doing with you, I'll be sharing this PPT. So those who want this PPT, they can again contact on this number or my WhatsApp number as well. And you guys must be having my WhatsApp number, so you can ask there. And it will be shared in your class group as well, the batch group. Okay. So don't worry about that. After the class or maybe within the next 24 hours, you will get all these chapters. Now, if you see the growth structure, global growth, okay. Now, India is facing certain headwinds like we've seen in the previous economic survey as well. And as soon as we see that there's always a word called geopolitical tension. Last year, when we were discussing economic survey, those who remember, geopolitical tension was also there. Trump got elected around January 20th. And we have seen a lot of speeches and all, like we have seen throughout 2025. So geopolitical tension along with the trade means here tariff and all. So you can see global economy in 2025 appears stable on the surface. It means it is not stable. Beneath the surface, it means anytime it can collapse. That's what it is saying. Obviously, not exactly collapse, but you can see the prices of gold and silver. They are rising in a huge multifold. The reason is simple. When investors think that world economy is non-stable, they go for hedge investment. It means where they can protect their investment. So they go for bullions like gold, silver, and other areas. Now here we need to understand why this chapter talks about India's macroeconomic position. Okay, like you must have seen in the newspaper, आप सभी ने देखा होगा. When India was under pressure of United States of America to stop buying oil from Russia. Okay. Then what India was doing is, now India did not oblige with that. And when you do not oblige with one important country in the world called superpower, what they do, you can see in Venezuela, you can see in other, even you can see with the NATO members about Greenland and all. Okay, I hope you can understand. This is not the class of geopolitics. That's why I'm not going in deep. So what India did is India is diversifying with European Union. Okay, like mother of all deals, you must have seen. So for Indian export sector, as you are the part of our batch as well, and I told you when rupee crossed 90 benchmark, and I told you why you no need to worry, because amidst the tariff, we need to protect our exporters. And in order to protect the exporters, we need to provide some kind of a cushion for those tariffs so that exporters keep on earning, India keep on generating employment, plus India keep on getting foreign exchange reserves. That's the stability of our economy. Okay, as multiple times I have explained this, here the most important thing is India stood strong throughout 2025. Okay, so just in the chat box, okay, everyone just clap it for our Indian economy. It's not the politician, it's not, we can say, the executors, not the situation, but the whole country navigated 2025 in a very well manner. The reason is simple. That India stood with fundamentals. India did not enter into any position, any geopolitical conflict, any speeches, anything which can provoke other countries to put fingers on India, like what is happening in Bangladesh. What happened in other parts of our country as well when they tried to disturb, what happened with our neighbors as well. What we are doing is we are just putting tape on our mouth, and we are just making our moves strategically. Okay, so here we can say, however, growth rests on weak structural foundation. It means Indian economy requires some kind of a boost, and that boost we have all seen. Okay, I've explained in the classes as well. Here I'll explain in summaries. Number one is income tax reduction. Okay, second is GST 2.0 to boost consumption. Okay, and successive reduction in the repo rate, that is policy rate. These three things helped India to keep boosting consumption in 2025, where other countries and one of the biggest person said about this that India is a dead economy, and some of our opposition leader also copy pasted it. But we have seen during our festival period, that is in the month of October, we have seen huge amount of spending due to GST 2.0, repo rate, etc., etc. Yes, labor reforms, Aditi, can also be included, like you said in the chat box. But labor reforms will take time to get into effect, not immediate. But these three, immediate disposable income, immediate increment in the consumption, and reduction in the EMI. So borrowing got the boost. Okay. So if you see, India maintained a strong growth momentum in financial year 26. So whenever in economic survey I say FY26, okay, it means it is 25, 26. Okay, this is how we like write it. Okay. So if you see first advanced estimate, GDP growth of FY26 at 7.4%. Okay, so here I'll be writing again 7.4%. In comparison to the previous, the same period, it was 6.5%. It means in FY25, it was 6.5%, now 7.4%. Okay, so this is the data we have taken from PIB as well. Okay, Press Information Bureau. Okay, now here what is the most important thing, that growth and inflation trends are increasing the uneven across regions, but still there's a no issue with that. Okay, beneath headline resilience, high debt policy uncertainty is there, like in the global areas. You know that high debt, every country is facing the issues with the debt. Okay, and trade and geopolitical tensions are obviously going on. Okay, now if you see global growth is fragile. Okay, when we see global growth, we need to understand how Indian economy is stable. Like if we talk about India's supply chain, okay, if we talk about India's supply chain, services remain the most important contributor. Manufacturing also strengthened after Make in India, Startup India, and government is giving lot of boost to the industry, those who are involved in manufacturing. In addition, agriculture provides stability as well. Like for example, like food supply chain. Okay, like food is reaching properly with the proper supply chain. That's why we have seen inflation is also under control. Inflation is not under control because of less spending, but it is of a perfect supply chain that India has maintained. Okay, but there are certain structural constraints. Okay, what are those constraints? Like for example, agriculture sector, there's hardly any shift, like according to the Lewis theory, if you remember, surplus labor transfer. This is not happening. Okay, in manufacturing sector, the problem with the innovation and the growth. In the services sector, the problem is that service sector is growing, but jobs are not growing. So there are structural constraint. Structural constraint, for example, if I am a student and I know a lot of economics, but I don't know English. Okay, so I'm not able to define what concepts I know. These are structural issues. So on the same lines, Indian economy is also facing structural constraints. Okay, so we have to analyze the demand supply side constraints. We'll see, okay, how we can see Indian economy is growing in the near term growth tracking. We'll see. Like Aditi said, labor market also uh, like shown the improvement, inflation, financial sector conditions, fiscal reforms, external reforms. These are the things. Like for example, inflation moderated. We have seen WPI went into negative. Okay, balance sheets are healthy. NPAs are not into like in a concerning zone. Fiscal balances are good. The consolidation path, the glide path. Okay, glide path, if you remember how fiscal deficit were reducing since COVID-19. So all these supports with, in addition, foreign exchange reserves. So what is the most important is to boost export in the tariff scenario. So if you see financial year 27, India's GDP will be somewhere around 6.8 to 7.2%. Okay, so strengthened to around 7%. It's a huge growth in comparison to the economy, but we all know that potential is very, very high in comparison to what we are seeing right now. Okay. Now let's see global backdrop, like global growth. Why global growth is fragile? Here we need to understand the word fragile. Okay, you understand? In a box, if I like transport a glasses, okay, 6 glasses set, it is always written fragile, handle with care. It means that parcel will handle what the item inside it, but there's a always some kind of a possibility that it can destruct. Okay, so in the same sense, we can say global stability is supported by temporary adjustment. It means all the injections, so the person is surviving on injections, not on diet or proper nutrition. So in the same lines, economy is also being supported by temporary adjustment, not a durable strength. It means currently what economies are getting is not permanent solution, is temporary solution. Okay, so if you see that this is obviously a fragile or diverging growth, but the new era of economic statecraft is unfolding. How? Number one is, if you see in the chapter, if you read full chapter, you'll find one word known as tariff shock. Now, tariff shock had limited short-term impact due to delayed implementation and partial negotiation. If you remember, I have covered in the YouTube channel Trump and in our current affairs classes as well. Trump and Xi Jinping met in Busan. The main reason for this meet was a reduction in the tariff and free flow of rare earth metals to America, where currently China is having a monopoly, supplies 80 to 90% of rare earths to all the countries. And these rare earths, are the lifeline of IT sector. And IT sector is the lifeline of US economy. And US economy the strength comes from US dollar. So you can say the power of dollar in the hands of Chinese supply of rare earths. That is why Trump is going for Greenland and all and sacrificing NATO. Are you getting my point? So the most important thing is that US is putting tariffs on imports, reciprocal tariff announced in April 2025, then again the implementation somewhere around August, July, August, that created like lower growth, higher inflation scenario. But short-run impact, if you see, it is transient. It was not full. Why? Because trade agreement happened between Xi Jinping and uh, Donald Trump in Busan actually led to a reduction in the tariff to China. Continuous supply of rare earth for one more year. It means it's not like a peace deal or trade negotiation. It was just a truce, temporary, like a pause on certain things. So trade agreements obviously affected, but lowering the effective tariff rates that was implemented in reality. Okay. Then spending and stockpiling ahead of expected hikes, delayed implementation, like in comparison to the postponement and export front loading. IMF also projected that from January 2025 to January 26, emerging market and developing economies, they grew decently. Advanced economies, obviously their growth was not that much, but yes, it was there, and US strengthened in that scenario. Okay, but advanced economy inflation is like stubbornly higher. It means it was sticky. Inflation is sticky means when something happens, inflation does not come down. It means it's sticky. Okay, in comparison to the initial projections. Now, when you see aggregate, like in terms of aggregates, US growth is strong, driven by AI investment. We have seen. If you have read the news last year, Microsoft laid off somewhere around 14,000 people and suddenly invested in AI. Okay, so AI investment is there, IT investment is there, but obviously software equipment. These are the most affected area with the AI. Global uncertainty, like we have seen in fiscal stress as well, large deficits, rising public debt, and high bond yields that led to fiscal vulnerability. Bond yields, simple, they are inversely to the returns. Okay. I have explained multiple times this bond yields. Okay, so I will not be explaining here in terms of explaining things. Now, the most important thing here is global uncertainty. So, policy continuity is a problem. It means one policy they announce, then suddenly they change. Plus geopolitics, okay. Plus global institutions are having almost zero accountability here, like World Trade Organization and others. Okay. If you see in the global growth section, there's a box about geopolitics, now heavily shapes with economics. Okay, so economics is most important in shaping geopolitics. Okay, so here I can say it's geoeconomics more. Right now countries are going towards ultra nationalism, anti-immigration stance, they reduce multilateralism and labor mobility. Like nobody will move from here and there. If we have seen for India H1B visa case and all. Okay, so you can understand the whole scenario, how this whole scenario is unfolding. Okay, tighter rules for export and all, and in these areas we have struck a deal with European Union. Okay, that European Union deal is a game changer for our country, because if you are exporting in USA, you have to face almost 50% tariff on textiles. It means if you are selling, suppose, a traditional sari to USA, okay, and that sari is having price of 1000 rupees, 50% tariff means it will go up to 1500. So you lose the competitiveness. But here in that same case, you know what is happening in Bangladesh, India's biggest competitor. Bangladesh had zero tariff. Right now, India is also, okay, with the European Union. So if you have seen, India lost the US market temporarily. So India gained another market, that is European Union market. India has done a lot of dealing with Middle Eastern country as well. Okay. So for example, here we need to understand that European Union also in trouble. The reason is simple. They are heavily dependent on America for their defense, and they are heavily dependent on a lot of other areas by having energy security from USA. Okay. Like Deepak said in the chat box, can you explain the deal detail, how India and while doing business finally struck a deal with America since Russia is the old partner? See, Russia is the old partner. We are not saying that we are abandoning Russia. We never said that. It's like we are continuing buying Russian oil. That's the issue with the Americans. They don't want us to buy Russian oil. But we are buying Russian oil, refining it, and exporting to European Union as well. So what they are saying that India is funding the Russia-Ukraine war. No, it's European Union is funding the war on themselves. If you see the data. Okay. I hope you are able to understand now. So the most important thing here, you need to understand that you have to become a part of critical global value chain, because if you become the part of global value chain, nobody can touch you, at least directly. Okay, so supply chain fragmentation is raising cost and reducing efficiency in the global market. Okay, Karuna, you can take the printout if you wish. Okay, this is economic survey. Okay, this is not the part of your study material. Study material is of static of your course. Okay. Now, why global growth is diverging? This is what we need to see. Countries are experiencing different growth inflation combination. Here we can say USA, strong growth, sticky inflation. It means with the With the perspective of growth, inflation is not moving. The problem or the key feature is AI driven investment. In Europe, you see always uneven because there are different kinds of economies. Inflation on the upper side, weak demand recovery. So demand is there, but the recovery is slow. EMDE, emerging markets and developing economies, growth is stable. Inflation is falling because better food and macro condition. You can see supply chain improvements. Every year you must have seen that tomato prices are going up, onion prices are going up, pulses going up. You've seen multiple times. This year nothing happened. So better food and macro conditions. Okay. China growth is moderate, inflation is low, or although we have deflation risk. Weak property demand, and this has been the case since 2015. If you are reading the newspaper, since 2015, this is the case. The problem in China is that they have built a lot of properties. And in those properties, they are unsold inventories. Due to rising cost of those properties and not enough in the wages, the properties inventory is lying vacant. So the simple sense is that people don't have purchasing power to purchase the property. Same trend you can see in India as well. I hope you can see. In your nearby areas, you see lot of flats, buildings, they are there. But when you go in night, they are empty. Okay. So the world economy is moving at multiple speeds. Okay. It means Europe's demand is recovering because of their low growth. Better. So in European Union, when country becomes developed, their growth rate generally not increasing at the same space. Like for example, India is a developing country. That's why we are growing at a faster rate. Okay. So European economy is recovering since a long. If you see 2008 crisis, okay, 2008 crisis, then 2011 Eurozone crisis, the PIGS country, PIIGS, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, they struggled economically. Then Germany and France, like a mother and father, both of European Union, they started helping other countries. Okay. They started helping other countries, and since then, the European economy was not recovering. Then they started investing in social sector. So that's why you can see since World War II, they are dependent for their defense equipments and defense needs on America. That is why America is threatening that give me Greenland. And if Trump wants, they cannot do anything. But that's the end of the NATO, the alliance of 70 plus years. Okay. So I hope you can understand that. Now, diverging monetary policy, US and Europe, cautious easing due to inflation. Some emerging markets, more room to cut rates. Like India, India is in a neutral stance right now. We'll see according to the data. Okay. Leads to volatile capital flows and exchange rate pressure. This is we are seeing in India as well. Okay. Emerging market and developing economies. It's a very common term, Karuna. If you are reading newspaper, this is a very common term. Okay. Then rise of geoeconomics, as I told you. Trade and technology increasingly used as strategic tools. Like I told you, IT sector. I told you rare earth metals. Okay. So I told you that how India is becoming a global value chain, part of the global value chain. India is producing Apple iPhone. Now Bangladesh textile industry is destroyed. So after the destruction of the Bangladesh textile industry and India's deal with European Union, Indian textile sector will have a boost. Then export control. climate linked tariffs, so carbon trading and all, globalization shifting from efficiency to security orientation. It means our own borders first. So if you have studied mercantilism, you can connect with that. Okay, everyone wants to increase their exports, nobody wants to increase their imports. Okay, that's the scenario here. Now, if you see India's growth drivers, okay, this is very important. As I told you, India is estimated 7.4. Last year it was 6.5. Now, how India's growth drivers? So first we need to see demand side anchors as well as capital formation. Like what I like about current budget and other things. Okay, the capex is increasing. If you have heard about the budget speech after that, I think it was uh, 1 or 2 hours after that, after the budget speech, and revenue secretary. Okay, revenue secretary gave explanation and answering all the questions. The most important takeaway from that as capital expenditure. Now, if you are investing today and it will generate money in coming years, that will help Indian economy. Why India needs? Like if you see India and Pakistan drama for the T20 World Cup, have you heard about that, everyone? Okay. Deepak, Indian farmers are very much protected. Okay. So America imposes tariff, doesn't make much sense. Have you heard about that T20 World Cup drama? Pakistan is coming, not coming, playing, not playing. They're playing with India in under 19, but will not play in this and that. You know? So it's like all drama that they are doing. Now, India, if you have heard about the Ramiz Raza speech 2-3 years back, Ramiz Raza said that 50% of Pakistan's money, revenue of Pakistan Cricket Board coming from ICC aid. And that is 50% of PCB's revenue. And the whole revenue that is a shareable pool, BCCI contributes 90% of that. It means from that pool, where BCCI is contributing 90%, PCB's funds coming 50% from it. It means India can choke any day. Okay. Now, in the tournament, India never messed with. India said that will not go Pakistan, will play with Pakistan. That is why India will always play in Dubai, like we have seen in the Champions Trophy last year. But here the whole drama is going on. The reason is very simple. India's focus is to grow the economy. If we will grow our economy, we will have a word to say in the global arena. In addition, we will also gain advantage. Nobody can directly attack on us. Plus, the Atmanirbhar Bharat is also a pain for other Western nations. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a pain, and especially in the defense sector. They don't want India to be independent or Atmanirbhar in the defense equipments. They want India to become an importer. Always be their customer of their defense product. But when India do, you know what they have done with Gautam Adani. And even the opposition is also supporting that because they want to come into the power, irrespective of they are supporting the country's agenda or not. Doesn't matter. You can see. So the reason is simple. You should never go anti-national by just like anyhow you get into the power. The reason is simple that first of all, we need to understand what is India's interest. India's interest is to become independent. If we are dependent on America, and America always sided with Pakistan in all the wars, we cannot trust that. If you remember a very important saying by, I think, Henry Kissinger, Secretary of State during 1970s, he said that if you are the enemy of America, it's better to become enemy than friend. So friend is very challenging. Okay. India put 0% tariff on America before, which was nearly 30% on agriculture. Is it harmful for? See, for Indian farmers, what India has done is India launched first PM Kisan. If you remember, PM Kisan Yojana. So what India did is the same thing that India did in textile sector right now. What India did is, if export market is closing, they're opening SEZ for domestic market. So India's agricultural consumption in our own country is very high. We don't need to export. We generally export to earn something. But if we stop exporting, still farmers will not be at loss. Because in the same way, in the milk production as well, in the milk production, India is the largest producer and the consumer both. In comparison, you see Australia and New Zealand, they consume hardly, but they export almost to the world. So the reason is India is having a huge market for everything. That is why market access, and in the European Union deal, we got the substitute for America, at least for the time being. Everyone is waiting for the Trump's tenure to get over. Let me tell you honestly. Everyone is waiting for that. Okay. So India remained fastest growing economy. You can see here. Fastest growing major economy. The word major is important because Nigeria and other African countries, they are growing in double digit as well. Okay. So for the fourth consecutive year, this is the biggest flex that we have. Okay. Now GVA growth estimated at 7.3%. Beta Arshad, if agriculture goods are coming in India, that will improve our supply chain. That will not hurt our farmers. Our consumption is high. So in order to control the inflation, still it does not like act as a dumping. It will not act as a dumping. Okay. Indian farmers are already very much protected. Yes, I agree with all of you, but you can see that this is the data-backed research. If you read newspaper editorials, you will realize that. Yes, market will open. Like for example, in manufacturing sector as well. Market opened in 1991. But in 1991, market opened due to compulsion, not by our own will. But in 2026, we are opening the market on our own terms, like China did in 1978 under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, open door policy, when China deliberately opened its economy. In 2026, India has that capacity. India is having huge flex of foreign exchange reserves as well. Obviously, not in comparison to China. There's no comparison. Like why we compare India with Pakistan? There's no comparison. On the same lines, India and China, there's no comparison. India is a democracy. China is only one person. So if that person is good, China will grow at a faster rate. If that person is corrupt, then Chinese economy can collapse. Okay. So the market is huge. That is why it will not have impact. Rather, it will bring new technology. It will bring access to the American agriculture sector to India. And you have to balance it out as well. Okay, like if you remember, US authorities were saying that we called Prime Minister Modi, but they was not able to like connect with it. अब ऐसा थोड़ी ना है हम दोस्त को फोन लगा रहे हैं उसने फोन नहीं उठाया, ऐसा नहीं होता बेटा. Geopolitics में everything is demanded. Like first, what I'll do is I'll ask my father to give me Hayabusa or R15 or maybe Pulsar so that he can get me a bicycle. I hope you can understand. During our struggle for freedom, we asked for Purna Swaraj. Kab? 1930s. In order to get dominion status. 20 years, almost 20 years after, we got independence. And that independence not because of our own struggle. A major contributor was World War II as well. Britain drained its resources to maintain colonies. Okay. So this is the if you know the Trump's personality, he's like acting like a child in the global market. He can say anything. Nobody takes him seriously unless until he do something. Okay. Nobody is taking him seriously. He's just announcing it big and then negotiating. So these are the techniques. Okay, तोप मांगो तो बंदूक मिलेगी. I hope you can understand. So growth drivers for India: domestic demand by strong private consumption and investment. I explained private consumption and investment. You understand? You and I consuming, private sector investment in India. So India is having advantage of crowding in effect. It means where government invests, private sector follows. Okay, I've explained multiple times in the class as well. Then the supply side. Services and manufacturing lead, agriculture provides stability. So here you can say that also justify. Beta, America is a superpower. Sometimes you have to agree. है ना, एक कदम पीछे आना पड़ता है कई बार जब दो कदम आगे करने का मौका मिले. Okay. Since 2013, they are asking for market access. If you remember Bali Ministerial Conference of WTO of 2013, America is putting pressure on. So here you can say supply side production approach. Okay. This is share of percentage of nominal GDP. So reading the data is always like this. H1 of both these years and then full year with estimates. Mining is underground, quarrying is over the ground. Okay, you must have seen JCB से पत्थर तोड़ते रहते हैं ना, that is quarry. Then manufacturing, electricity, gas supply, and this. So you can say percentage 52% approximately, 24% and 14%. This is important for you. Okay. Got it. Then private final consumption expenditure. So for private sector, you can see this, government sector and gross fixed capital formation. And then the exports. Okay. H1 means बेटा April to September. 12 महीने को आधा आधा कर देते हैं. ठीक है. So first 6 months of the financial year and last 6 months of financial year. That is H1 April to September and H2 is October to March. Now these are the demand side drivers. I've explained already. Supporting factors, these are the supporting factors. How? Inflation is low, so improved real purchasing power. Stable employment conditions. I know employment is not generating enough that is required, but in terms of economic capacity, employment conditions are stable. Strong rural consumption. So in rural areas, if you see, people are buying two-wheeler. If you see the data, and data is like you see the sale of TVS, you see the sale of Hero. Two-wheelers are selling in rural areas. So whenever in rural income goes up, people buy two-wheelers. So this is backed by agriculture as well and consumption of two-wheelers. Then urban consumption supported by tax rationalization. Same, income tax, rebates and GST 2.0. Two slabs gone. So we have seen automobile sales in September. Okay, higher air passenger traffic. Even after Indigo crisis and all, still people don't have option. Why? Because I have to go to Kolkata in the month of March. Okay. Now I was looking for a train from Delhi. I was looking for Rajdhani to Kolkata. That Rajdhani was costing me around 4,000 rupees. Okay. In first AC, second AC, I don't remember the exact rate. But if you see the flight is somewhere around costing 5,000. Now sitting in Rajdhani for 17 hours and sitting in flight for approximately, we can say 5 hours in total from door to door. So 5 hours and 17 hours, which one will you pick? Obviously this. So air passenger traffic, you can see. Rural survey confirms resilient consumption. Resilient means strong. not weak. Okay. So here you can see the graph. It is quite visible. Okay, after my lecture, please read the Economics Survey Chapter 1. Okay, it will help you. Now, gross fixed capital formation grew by 7.6% in H1 with the share of 30% in GDP. So, again, you can say that what government is investing will give. So, we have seen like successive Vande Bharat trains, infrastructure, bridge in every city, construction is going on, flyovers, metro, etc. So, strong public capex. Okay, surge in private corporate investment announcement. So when private sector feels confident, government shows that confidence. Okay. Rising bank credit. So bank loans are improving in terms of volume. Strong capital goods imports. So whatever we are importing is capital goods, not just oil alone. Okay. Then public capex, you can see up to 28%. It's a very important figure. Corporate investment revival. So you can see crowding in effect. When government build a highway, private sector build homes near those highway. Okay, that's what we can see. Crowding in effect. Year on year means comparison with the previous year. So April to November comparison to the 2024. Same April to November 24, April to November 25. That is YOY. Okay. So these are the things. So GST rationalization, softer inflation, etc. Okay. बेटा आप मनी बैक गारंटी में एनरोल हुए होगे ना तो 30 डेज बाद आता है ठीक है करो ना अदरवाइज यू हैव टू फॉरगेट दैट मनी बैक गारंटी 30 days money back guarantee is there so you have to tell the management that you don't want to avail the money back guarantee they will dispatch your material ठीक है बेटा it is automatically applied to all the courses ठीक है automatically applied so you have to write an email on that okay Then external demand. So you can see India's external demand, export of goods and services grew by 5.9% in H1, financial year 26, supported by services exports, stable anchor amid volatile goods exports. That is why we are not controlling the rupee. Okay, Karuna, I'll just talk to him. Okay? Tomorrow morning, I'll resolve your issue. Services export in simple sense. If exports are not growing due to tariff, okay, listen carefully. हम ना लास्ट में ये सारी चीजें कर लेंगे बेटा पढ़ाई कर लेते हैं मोमेंटम ब्रेक होगा मैं लास्ट में रुकूंगा आप मुझे सारी चीजें बता देना जो भी इशू ठीक है सो व्हेन एक्सपोर्ट्स आर नॉट मूविंग बिकॉज ऑफ टैरिफ्स what we can do is for example if suppose I am selling a product at rupees 1000 but because of tariff it is costing the consumer 1500 rupees in USA. Okay, listen carefully. This is India because of tariff. So what I will do for Indian exporter is I will give them subsidy. Okay, subsidy on electricity and transportation. Suppose for example, I will give subsidy to them on transportation and electricity in their factory, which is 500 rupees. So you can see that this extra 500 tariff will be covered from the support given by government. Plus, I will not control the rupee as well. Not controlling the rupee will also hurt the importers, especially the oil, which is like inelastic. The demand is inelastic. Okay. So that's how government is supporting. Next is trade diversification. Trade diversification. Like we are going towards West Asian countries, Middle East, European countries, and even in Southeast Asia. Helping sustain export growth, despite global tariffs. We have seen the deal with New Zealand, UAE. Okay. So if US is not there, India is moving and diversifying its basket. Okay. So expected to strengthen with ongoing bilateral trade negotiation, especially with the US. That's written in the survey, although the deal struck. Okay. Now this is very important slide. Okay. Very, very important. Supply side performance. And that's where we are able to control the inflation. Okay. So estimated growth is 3.1%, supported by favorable monsoon. You can see this year La Nina was there, a geographical concept where every season is extreme. So you can see the winters are cold, rainy season was heavily experienced the rain. Summer was also very much hot. Stable allied activities, it means apart from farming, livestock, fisheries, other things went well. And Rabi showing progressed well. Rabi is the winter crop. Okay. So indicating positive farm income and rural demand prospects. So that's the reason behind that 30% Arshad was asking. Okay. So agriculture provides stability, and this is a decent growth if you compare with the past. Okay. And in simple sense, supply side is working well. Same way, if you link with industry, it is 6.2% in current fiscal, 5.9 in the last year. Manufacturing expanded by this in H1, driven by resilient demand. Resilient means a strong demand. Demand is stable. It's not fluctuating. That's what we call resilient demand. And improved capacity utilization. It means on the back end, factories have huge amount of capacity. Okay, to produce more if the demand goes up. Concerns about falling manufacturing share are due to price effects, not real decline. Okay, so concern किस बारे में है कि manufacturing का share fall हो रहा है. It's not about due to price effect. It's not the real decline. Okay, but yes, other sectors are also growing. So construction remains strong due to infrastructure push. So you can see everywhere the houses are building. Okay, the infrastructure, bridge, road, etc. Okay. Then high frequency indicators like Purchasing Manager Index, IIP, Index of Industrial Production, e-way bills, steel and cement output show continued industry momentum. That's why government is getting real-time data. Now, real-time data if government is getting, it is very important for them to make policy. So industries are also getting the boost. And this we have seen, huge amount of industrial production is going on. Startups are also coming. Okay. Now services, you can see the huge amount of stability. So services share is somewhere around, you can see 53%, the largest contributor in our GDP. Okay. So financial and professional services, trade, transport, hospitality. So recovering is still below pre-COVID, but yes, it is important. Tourism is picking up, hotel industries, everything is picking up. Public administration and defense, both are also growing. So you can see sector-wise performance. And India is doing great. Now this is very important for you to understand macroeconomic fundamentals. First one, inflation. CPI inflation has declined sharply to 1.7%. Okay. So in the examination, if the data you have to write it, you write the data of economic survey. Okay. Clear? Everyone just write clear in the chat box. Okay. Okay. This data you have to remember. Inflation. Headline CPI inflation. Okay. What it is? Headline CPI inflation. Now, why it has declined sharply? The reason is simple. Correction in food prices, especially vegetable and pulses, because of good supply side measures you can see from here. Good farm output, so production was good. Favorable base effect, it means previously it was low, so now it is growing. Like for example, if you do not score good in one test, then in another test, if you top the class, the effect will be huge, the improvement. Okay, so that's what we call base effect. Okay. Now, core inflation shows some persistence, but how much this is attributed to precious metals when excluded, underlying inflation pressure appears subdued. इसको simple sense में मैं समझाता हूँ, ठीक है? If you see investor, whenever investor feel that economy is not going in a right direction, they hedge their investment. So if you see core inflation means when you remove food and fuel, the fluctuating data. Okay, core inflation persistent, partly due to hike in the precious metal prices like gold and silver. Okay, so that appears softer, but it is remain sticky. The outlook is simple. The supply side constraints conditions are there, but gradual pass on the rate rationalization reduction by RBI. It's important. Okay. So CPI is helping Indian economy to grow. That's why if you remember in one of the monetary policy committee report, our governor said that India is in a Goldilocks zone. It means where inflation is low and growth is high. Rarely happen. Okay. Divya saying, sir, I have a question. Can we remind? See, there's no so much of data. There's only one or two data important in every slide. Like, for example, inflation data. When you read Divya daily newspaper, these data appear very frequently. Very frequently, these data. So, if you remember it on a daily basis, you will remember. Like, do you remember? How do you remember your date of birth? How do you remember your own phone number? It's familiarity. So you have to remember only the data mentioned in the PPT. Okay, I have not mentioned or I have not dumped huge amount of data. Okay. So like the contribution of sector so that you can write in your answer, or even in if you are preparing for any MCQ related examination, that is also where you can add things. Okay, make sense? So here you can see inflation, headline CPI, CPFI, and that is core inflation. So here you can see. Now near-term outlook remains benign. Benign means not very positive. Okay, it's like almost the same. Okay, not very good in terms of I can say improvement. Okay, this you can say CPI in food as well, consumer food price index. So here you can see financial year 26, it is negative. Core inflation somewhat sticky, revolving around in the same reason. So headline inflation is the biggest improvement. And here at the end, you can see core inflation excluding gold and silver, so remains stable. Okay. Food beta, consumer food price index. Okay, Vishal. So here you can say stable food prices, GST rate rationalization, pass through, monetary easing raises demand pressure. Okay, global base metal price rises. So that's why core inflation is a risk, but near-term outlook is like this. Okay. Now, direct taxes have shown strong buoyancy. It means when GDP growth rate goes up, tax collection goes up without increasing the tax rates, which is achieving around 53% of the annual target. So you can see by November, which is not that good because 50% of the target must have been achieved by September. And GST collection recorded multiple record high despite low inflation. So you can see this is the active example of Laffer curve, where if you reduce the tax rate, revenue goes up. Okay. So expenditure trends, capital expenditure rose strongly. So that's why CapEx reaching nearly 60% of the budget allocation. Revenue expenditure growth remained contained, improving the quality of spending. So quality of spending is improving. Quality of spending means in simple sense, like for example, if you have 1000 rupees okay, with you. Quality of spending means if you spend that 1000 rupees on buying a book, okay, or you fill the petrol in your vehicle, two-wheeler, and you roam around when the weather is good. So the quality of expenditure means here it is good, here it is bad. The same money, okay. So on the same lines, government's expenditure quality has been improving. Okay, makes sense. Fiscal consolidation path. The word fiscal consolidation means reducing the fiscal deficit in simple sense. So when you reduce the deficit, it means reducing the expenditure and increasing the revenue. That is what we call fiscal consolidation path. So center remains on track to achieve fiscal deficit, which is this 4.4%. So remember this important data. Okay, share of capital expenditure in the total spending has nearly doubled over recent years. So what government is investing is on capex that will give results in the future. Lower sovereign bond spreads, credit rating upgrades reflect market confidence and fiscal credibility. So you can see after the US deal as well, we have seen stock market is rising. Okay. Now here if we talk about monetary policy, repo rate cut 125 basis point. 125 basis point means 1.25%. Okay. Liquidity injected through CRR cuts, OMO, and forex swaps. So you can see in the month of January, 2 lakh crores of amount invested, not exactly invested, injected in the economy. Okay. Transmission lending rates decline. So that happened. So when RBI reduces the rate, bank also reduces their loan rate. So borrowing becomes cheaper and people love to invest. Okay. Bank sector health. So gross NPA at a multi-decade low of 2.2%. Stable slippage ratio. It means slippages from the target. Strong profitability and capital positioning. So both are good. It means corporate's balance sheet are also recovering and bank's balance sheet also doing the same. Okay. So changing the credit mix, it means corporate increasingly using market-based financing in comparison to the other resort to other areas of financing. Okay. Non-bank source of finance growing rapidly, like for example, India's capital market. This is external sector, macroeconomic fundamentals. You can see external sector. So we have seen exports reached record high, even though tariff are looming. Okay, you can see this. That's why I told you that due to global headwinds, still India is able to stand still, resilient in financial year 26. So it was record 825 billion US dollar. You can see 825 billion. Momentum is continuing in this financial year as well. So it was financial year 25. The momentum continued. Despite we have higher US tariff, merchandise export grew by 2.4%. April to December, merchandise export grew. Services export grew by 6.5%. So you can see that obviously merchandise trade rising, this is a problem. But whenever we have services surplus, it is important. There's no issue with that. Okay. Robust remittances, it means those who are Indians sending money to India, earning in dollars, sending money to India, that is remittances. They remit money from abroad. So that's why India is the highest recipient. So we've seen that as well. Now, current account deficit remains moderate. Current account deficit means export to import. Okay. What are resilience factors? So export market is growing. It means you have to earn more than spending. Strong remittances flow. Indians living abroad sending money to India. And that is why India is having strong foreign exchange reserves. Approximately cover of 9 months, 9 to 10 months. Very important reforms recognized in the first chapter itself, labor market. 29 laws consolidated into 4 labor codes aim to formalize gig platform workers and improve flexibility. If labor laws rigid in any country, investment does not come because nobody wants to stuck in legal suits. So legal suits, nobody wants to engage in that. Okay. So if simple, clear-cut laws will be there, there are a lot of hidden interpretation and all that like stops or the investor to invest in our country. So labor market also indicated that unemployment rate declined. If you see the graph in the first chapter, you will realize, not exactly graph, chart. Okay. Chart, I think 26 number chart was there. Okay. So poverty reduction, you can see it is there. Gig platform workers in India, you can see Blinkit and other, they are growing. Okay. So extreme poverty decline, lower middle income poverty decline, social indicators improving. Although improvement is always there. Okay. It's not like if you compare with the Western countries, US also grew like this, Japan also grew like this. Right now they are talking about work-life balance, standard of living, etc. But you can see when they were growing at the same pace. Like in China, if you are working hard, it's a flex. But in India, in our culture, if somebody is saying you have to work really hard, you don't have a work-life balance, people are like get offended. I'm not saying you become like a Narayan Murthy and you say that you work for 70 hours, work for weekends. I'm not saying like that. But if a country, young people, they are not contributing, how an economy will grow? Like, for example, just take one example. Okay. Anyone experiencing flyover nearby your area, a newly constructed flyover or a metro or something, anyone experiencing that same? Now, imagine that project is of 10 years. Okay. Imagine that project is of 10 years, but you do work 24/7. The work is 24/7. I'm not saying that one person will do the, but if you do round the clock in two shifts, this 10-year time will become 5 year. So country will get infrastructure, people will get employment, high income, plus there will be no time and cost overruns of the project. Because in 10 years, imagine the rate of iron, rate of cement, rate of labor, and in those 5 years, it will save as well. And people get benefit in the first 5 years. Is that the improvement? The answer is yes. So if country wants to grow faster, their people needs to work more. That's the reason. That's why China is way ahead than any other country in the world. There's no comparison. China built flyovers in 30 days, 60 days. There's no comparison. Okay. So now costing data readiness, now you can see. So certain data is mentioned like IIP, PMI, credit, trade, transport, energy, all will work as a fodder in your answer writing. Okay. Now here we can say purpose is near-term GDP using high-frequency indicators before using the official data to release. Okay. Data spent 2026 onwards. Okay, that was by mistake. 2006 was written. Okay. Statistical system reforms, new survey, annual survey for incorporated survey sector enterprise. This is the data. All India debt and investment survey, household income survey. That's why government will get data, and government will get data. Government will make good policy. Okay. That's why I'm saying that was the introductory slide for this slide. Okay. So I said that data is important. Okay. So data and remedies. This is the data. These are the new survey you can mention. And a PLFS, AS, USC, they now provide quarterly and monthly estimate. Rebasing, so GDP base has been changed. Release in this IIP base change, CPI base change. So these things are helpful in covering the modern needs. okay, because the base was before COVID. So modern needs की वजह से base change कर दिया. These base here are important for your MCQ related examination. Okay. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll take up the chapter 2. Okay. Chapter 2 we'll be taking tomorrow. If you want to read the summary, you can ask on the number given below the screen. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Okay. Tomorrow. Okay. Aditi, yes, I will do that. ठीक है. ठीक है, then thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time, 9 p.m. Because 9 p.m. is comfortable for everyone. Okay, that's why I'm keeping this. Currently on Zoom, I can see 55 plus people are attending. Okay. Beta, you have to read the economic survey like a simple novel. Okay, like a story. I've explained everything. You will now understand everything. Okay. Okay. Sanjeev, you can watch the recording. Okay. I'll give you the recording. Okay. Don't worry. Karuna, you just have to read it. No reference to the study material or books. You just read the chapter. Okay. Yes. Yes, Gitu. We work on data. Okay. Yes, this will be available on mobile app. Okay. What to note from the slides? I think whole economic service summary will be delivered to you. And then the data that I have written. Okay. Yes. Ravali, that I'll tell you in the Sunday class. Okay. Upcoming Sunday class about ivory sheet. ठीक है. संडे को मिलेंगे अपन फॉर 3 आवर्स 3 to 4 hours इन आर आंसर राइटिंग सेशन. ठीक है, उसमें करेंगे अपन.